The story begins with a young man sleeping soundly. He is surrounded by trash bags and empty bottles in a disheveled room, the clock on the shelf reading 12:00. A young man named Shinba rushes frantically, out of breath. He explains that despite setting alarms, he overslept and was an hour late. Overwhelmed with guilt, he calls himself a failure of a boyfriend. His girlfriend, Hizumi, waits for him, holding her phone with a calm, unreadable expression. Hizumi calmly asks when he slept and if he had any caffeine, to which he admits he did not. She wonders aloud how he ever managed to be an office worker for 2 years if he could not wake up even after extensive preparations. She leans in close and remarks that since he is now a fully fledged, jobless individual, his past is irrelevant. Her words leave him stunned and speechless. He can only manage to apologize again. Shinba breaks down, shaking and crying as he begs for forgiveness. Without a word, Hizumi takes his hand and tells him they should go. As they walk away together, Shinba is left utterly confused, wondering if she has forgiven him or not. As they walk down the street, Shinba looks over at Hizumi. He reflects that the woman whose hand he is holding, Hizumi, is his girlfriend. Their destination is the cinema. They are there to see a Western-style hero movie that he had highly recommended. Inside the theater, Hizumi mentions that she has not seen any of the previous hero movies. Shinba enthusiastically reassures her that it is fine and promises to explain everything. As the movie begins, Hizumi sips her drink with a detached expression. Despite his earlier enthusiasm, Shinba falls asleep during the movie. Hizumi notices and calmly takes the large bucket of popcorn from his lap. She then leans over and watches him sleep with a faint, enigmatic smile. Later, at a restaurant, Shinba is still apologizing profusely for falling asleep during the movie he recommended. Hizumi tells him he has been apologizing for a while and that it is enough. To his surprise, she says that she was personally quite satisfied. Shinba is confused, as Hizumi tells him the movie was amusing, but she also saw something even more interesting. When he asks what it was, she puts a finger to her lips and says it is a secret. She teasingly calls it his penalty for dozing off. A waitress brings their food as the conversation concludes. As their food is served, Shinba is excited by how delicious it looks. Determined to make up for his nap, he resolves to eat quickly so he can explain the movie to Hizumi. He launches into an enthusiastic explanation of a scene. He asks for her opinion as a first-time viewer. She ignores his question and instead calls his name, offering him a piece of her food. Hizumi calmly critiques Shinba's table manners, questioning his behavior of starting a one-sided conversation while she is still eating, and asks if he is trying to send her a message with such cruel words. Shinba is horrified, stammering an apology and saying he did not mean to be rude. Hizumi laughs and points out that he has been apologizing all day like a toy. He spirals into self-loathing, wondering what he was doing and lamenting his failures on their precious date. He tearfully calls himself a useless person. He apologizes for his harsh words. Hizumi smiles gently, telling him she knows he does not do it on purpose and that he just got too heated talking about his favorite thing. Her calm forgiveness leaves him emotional. He is left confused, unable to tell if she genuinely forgave him or was simply exasperated, as he can never read her expressions. At the cashier, Shinba realizes he forgot to get money. Just as she always does, Hizumi calmly steps in and pays by card. As they leave, he promises to pay her back. Her calm demeanor remains unchanged, as always. She turns to him, her gaze seemingly seeing through him. She calls his name, making him jump. As they walk through the city at night, Hizumi turns to Shinba with a smile and tells him that the dinner they just had was the most delicious one she has had in a while. Once again, Shinba is left flustered and confused by her unreadable smile, wondering if she truly enjoyed the food. At the bus stop, Shinba apologizes for all his mistakes throughout the day. He lists being late and dozing off during the movie as some of the nuisances he caused. He concludes that she must be disillusioned with such a useless person and would want to abandon him. Hizumi internally reflects on his behavior, wondering who could possibly be happy with someone who constantly repeats their mistakes and shivers for forgiveness like a newborn puppy. Believing she wants to break up, Shinba panics. He thinks that of course she would want to break up with someone like him. He desperately promises to learn from his mistakes and do his best to make her happy next time. He bows deeply, begging her not to leave him yet. He looks up as she calls his name. Suddenly, Hizumi snaps a photo of Shinba's panicked face with her phone. She laughs, calling his expression amusing, much to his confusion. She then tells him that she had a lot of fun today. She apologizes for making him feel so anxious, telling him she does not mind his mistakes at all. Placing her hands on his shoulders, Hizumi looks at him gently and says that she likes him, asking him to forgive her. She lets out a soft laugh, her expression a mixture of affection and something more complex. Overcome with emotion, Shinba is flustered. He tries to say he likes her too. Before he can finish, the bus doors close as she leans in and kisses him. As the bus begins to depart, she pulls back with a warm smile and tells him she will see him again. He is left stunned and teary-eyed, only able to stammer a goodbye. He remembers that at every departure, she would always say she would see him again. Wiping away tears, he cannot understand what she likes about him. Recalling her confession, he feels a surge of emotion. He clenches his fist, determined to become a better person, someone more suitable for her. Shinba vows to graduate from being a worthless person for Hizumi's sake. Meanwhile, on the bus, Hizumi looks at the photo she took of his panicked, crying face. As tears stream down her own face, she thinks to herself how truly, utterly useless he is. Alone on the bus, Hizumi gazes at her phone, the screen illuminating an ecstatic, almost pained smile on her face as she whispers how happy she is. Hizumi answers a call from Shinba, expressing relief that he only has a cold. She playfully mocks his inability to do anything while sick, telling him to writhe in pain until she arrives. Sitting at her desk, Hizumi savors the thought of Shinba being completely helpless. A feverish Shinba apologizes to Hizumi for the trouble. Hizumi observes his miserable state, noting the fluids seeping from him. She gives him a rehydration solution and other things she bought, assuming he would have no medicine. She remarks that this is her first time visiting his apartment. His apartment is cluttered with strewn-about clothing. The refrigerator is filled with expired food. The mess consists of rotten and broken things hidden away in the back. Hizumi opens the fridge and teasingly suggests the state of his home reflects his life. He apologetically explains that his busy schedule led to the untidy state of his apartment. Hizumi tells him not to worry about it and to focus on getting some rest. She announces her plan to cook for him since she can only stay for the day. With her hair tied back for cooking, Hizumi playfully warns Shinba not to let her food rot. Shinba quickly agrees, promising to eat it all. He lies in bed, feeling miserable for being a burden on her yet again. Hizumi discovers his high school yearbook and asks if she can take a look. Looking at his photo, she comments that he hasn't changed at all. Shinba disagrees, stating that he feels his mindset is completely different now. He explains that his student life never went smoothly, despite his hopes that adulthood would be better. His first job after graduation was a disaster, leading him to quit within 2 years. He laughingly tells her that, as she can see, he's become a proper useless person. Hizumi offers a sharp assessment of his situation, calling him an unemployed man with a naive outlook. The timer goes off, signaling that the meal is ready. She serves him the food, framing it as the direct consequence of his life choices. Shinba hesitantly tries the food. He is amazed by the taste and exclaims that it's delicious. Hizumi watches him, pleased with his reaction. Looking from the yearbook to her, Shinba asks about her high school experience. Hizumi looks thoughtful as she prepares to answer. Hizumi turns the question back on him, asking what he thinks her high school days were like. She encourages him to imagine what kind of girl she was back then. Shinba is left contemplating the mystery of Hizumi's past. He begins to imagine a scene from her past, directed by him. In his fantasy, a younger Hizumi stands as a model student. She leans over a desk and calls a fellow student useless. The fantasy Hizumi suggests she will come to his room and educate him every night. She leans in close, proposing they study everything together from 1 to 10. The intensity of his imagination causes Shinba to blush furiously. He quickly claims his fever is worse and says he needs to lie down. Hizumi laughs, finding his strange behavior amusing. He eventually falls asleep, still overwhelmed by his fantasy. In his dream, he recalls being bullied by other children who called him filthy. He also remembers his boss yelling at him for his inefficiency at work. All the voices culminate in a single accusation: this is why he is so useless. He wakes up suddenly, gasping for air after the nightmare. He is shocked to see Hizumi awake and watching him. Startled, he asks what she is doing in his room. Hizumi explains that she found his feverish, nightmarish state amusing and wanted to sear the image into her mind, even wishing to be there if he were to die. Shinba is visibly shaken by her dark comments. She brushes off his fear, claiming she was only joking. He tries to offer her a cleaner place to sleep, apologizing for his filthy bedding. She reassures him that it's fine for one night. He worries that his messy room is inappropriate for someone like Hizumi. Hizumi reveals she prefers a slightly dirtier place over an immaculate one. Still, she admits his room could be a bit cleaner. He reflects on his desire to become a better person for her. He wonders if he can stay by her side even if he remains useless. The next morning, Hizumi checks his temperature and is glad to see his fever has gone down. Hizumi gets ready to leave for work, telling him to rest for the day. He thanks her for taking care of him. He tells her to be careful on her way out. Shinba is startled when she asks if he is feeling lonely. She leans in and suggests that if his fever returns, she might have to come stay again. She leaves the decision of how he will spend the day up to him. She challenges him, questioning if even he could be so useless as to get sick again deliberately. With a final look, she tells him she trusts he will make the correct choice. The door closes, leaving him flustered and alone. He is thrown into a state of confusion, weighing his conflicting desires. Hizumi sits on the train, looking at her phone. She reads a text from Shinba, confirming he has recovered and asking if he made the right choice. While her reply is encouraging, her private thought reveals a hint of disappointment. Hizumi is surprised by Shinba's suggestion to go to a game center. Amused by his clear love for games, Hizumi agrees to go with him. After the call, she smiles to herself, thinking he's a real motormouth when it comes to things he's passionate about. Shinba enthusiastically greets Hizumi. She had arrived early, feeling it was her responsibility since she was the one who invited him out. He sheepishly admits he barely made it on time despite using 3 separate alarm clocks, a fact that Hizumi notes with a deadpan expression. With a flourish, Shinba presents the Vega Game Center. He passionately explains that arcades have evolved to provide unique experiences that can't be replicated at home. Hizumi listens with a non-committal hum. Shinba reflects that recently he's only shown Hizumi his pathetic side. Determined to change her impression of him, he decides to show her his cool side. He wants to finally earn her recognition and graduate from being a useless person. He resolves to do this by demonstrating his forte, his skill at games. With intense focus, Shinba plays a rhythm game, his hands a blur of motion. As he plays, Hizumi watches from behind with a completely blank expression. He finishes the song with a perfect full combo and the highest possible score. Shinba celebrates his perfect score. He excitedly explains to Hizumi that he just cleared the game's hardest song without a single miss. She smiles and claps, telling him it was great and that he's very good at games. When she calls him cool, he's overjoyed. Hizumi's expression darkens as she asks if he really invited her on a date just to make her stand and watch him show off his skills for the sake of getting praised. Caught completely off guard, Shinba is flustered. He stammers that it wasn't his intention at all. Smiling brightly, Hizumi suggests they find games they can play together. Shinba sees this as a new opportunity to impress her. In a zombie shooter, he quickly finds himself in trouble, while Hizumi calmly tells him she'll come revive him later. In a fighting game, Hizumi's character easily knocks out Shinba's. He's frustrated he can't win, and Hizumi calmly explains that he's just mashing buttons without purpose. He begs for one more round. She agrees with an amused chuckle. At a punching game, Shinba makes excuses for his low score. Hizumi then steps up and effortlessly doubles his score. She teases him about how strong he must have been when he had a physical job. Eager to change the subject, Shinba retreats. He points out a crane game with cute stuffed animals. Shinba carefully strategizes at the crane game. He fantasizes about winning a prize for Hizumi and seeing her look at him in a new light. However, before he can act, Hizumi steps in and wins a plushie, leaving him utterly defeated. Hizumi effortlessly beats a flustered Shinba at a racing game. She continues to outmatch him at a dancing game. Completely outmatched, he anxiously tries to figure out where they should go next. All the while, Hizumi watches him with a fond and amused smile. Later, at a food court, Shinba slumps onto the table in despair, lamenting that he didn't get a single chance to show off. He feels like he's just spinning his wheels, especially since Hizumi is so good at everything. Just then, Hizumi calls his name, telling him he's so kind. Hizumi reveals that she knew he was holding back to match her skill level so she could have fun. She thanks him for his consideration, showing him the plushie and crediting his gentlemanly nature for her win. A stunned Shinba realizes she saw right through his act. Upon closer inspection, Hizumi notes that the plushie has a loose eye. Shinba suggests they exchange it, but she declines. Cradling the flawed toy, she says with a smile that she likes this particular one. Shinba is confused why she'd prefer the defective plushie when there are perfect ones available. Hizumi says she can fix it, which surprises Shinba. She explains that sewing and fixing things is her hobby. Shinba replies that his confidence in his gaming is shaken. Hizumi explains that love comes in many forms, from romance to passion for a hobby. She believes the true value is in the feeling one gets from the time and effort invested. She suggests that whether you win or lose, as long as you can find value in the time spent, it's all fine in the end. Moved by her perspective, Shinba quietly agrees. As they get ready to leave, Hizumi excuses herself to the restroom. While waiting alone, Shinba sighs, feeling he failed to show his good side yet again. Shinba spots a machine dispensing cheap romance accessories, including a heart-shaped ring. When Hizumi returns, he nervously approaches her. He presents her with the small toy ring. Hizumi stares at the toy ring with a look of utter shock. Shinba quickly explains that he thought she might like it. He tells her she doesn't have to accept it. She cuts him off by calling his name, causing him to brace for her reaction. With a condescending smile, Hizumi holds up the ring and asks if he really bought her such a cheap-looking thing, questioning if he actually believed that she would be happy with a toy. Mortified, Shinba calls himself an idiot and apologizes. Hizumi laughs, asking why he is apologizing when she never said she hated it, and says she's happy for it. However, with a sly smile, she adds that she'll probably never wear it before slipping it into her bag. They part ways for the day. As her bus leaves, Shinba feels the day was another failure. He wonders if he can ever become a proper boyfriend for her. He worries that if he continues to be so useless, she will eventually leave him. He quickly shakes his head to dismiss the fear. Shinba gives himself a pep talk, resolving to graduate from being a useless person. He envisions a future where he can present Hizumi with a real, proper ring. To make that happen, he decides his first step must be to find a part-time job. She takes out the toy ring Shinba gave her, admitting to herself that she could never wear it outside. She smiles fondly and slips it onto her finger. Since she's working remotely, she decides to wear it. She continues typing, thinking to herself that it really suits her. While taking a shower, a young woman happily hums a tune. Smiling to herself, she wonders what kind of songs he will sing tomorrow. A message from Shinba pops up on her phone, expressing his own excitement for their karaoke plans. Shinba cheerfully greets Hizumi in the rain, but his voice is noticeably hoarse, a fact she immediately points out. With a knowing smile, Hizumi correctly guesses that he practiced for their karaoke date yesterday. Flustered, Shinba stammers in response. Shinba frantically denies practicing, internally panicking that his voice won't come out well. He thinks that singing well is his chance to achieve a gap-cool image in her eyes. As he continues to ramble, Hizumi watches him with a thoughtful, shadowed expression. They arrive at a building called Karaoke Castle. At the front desk, Shinba is determined to show Hizumi his good side this time. He feels confident that his practice session, where he consistently scored 80 points, will pay off. The karaoke screen displays his song choice, Moonless Night Requiem Episode 1. Shinba belts out the song with intense passion, though the lyrics are very middle schoolish. Hizumi watches with a deadpan expression, shaking a pair of maracas. The screen flashes his final score, 85.598. Excitedly, Shinba asks for Hizumi's opinion on the song, explaining its complex mix of genres. He proudly announces his score of 85 points. He continues to babble about the song's difficult composition and how it's the start of a larger story. He waits eagerly for her praise. Hizumi remains silent and unimpressed. She offers only a simple "good for you." Seeing his anticipation, she then asks if he wants to hear more compliments, leaving him confused. Hizumi calmly points out that he made her listen to a 10-minute song she didn't know, all in an attempt to look good. A flustered Shinba apologizes and asks if the song itself was at least cool. She bluntly tells him that she didn't really like the song. Shinba is left speechless, apologizing once more. Shinba panics, realizing his attempt to look cool was just embarrassing. Hizumi reassures him that he doesn't need to apologize. She points out that the song was only the first chapter of a story and suggests he sing all the way to the end. She adds that she's very excited to hear the ending. Her sharp, smiling gaze tells him he has no choice but to continue. Hizumi leans back with a satisfied expression, watching as Shinba is forced to sing through the entire song series. After finally finishing, Shinba collapses onto the table as Hizumi applauds and tells him he did a good job. He's mortified and can't stop sweating from the embarrassment. He realizes how idiotic it was to sing such a minor song that no one knew. Hizumi teasingly points out his hoarse voice and how much he's sweating. Worried about his smell, he excuses himself to the restroom to wash up. In the restroom, he realizes he left his towel back in the room and wonders how long he can hide. He feels dizzy from singing so much. He feels ashamed of his fruitless tone-deaf exertion and the fact that he now stinks of sweat. Feeling like a useless person, he can't bring himself to go back. As he walks down the hallway, he realizes he's completely forgotten their room number. His panic intensifies when he remembers he left his phone behind and can't contact Hizumi. The hallway seems to stretch on endlessly, and a voice tells him there's nowhere to return to. A shadowy figure in a doorway labeled workplace tells him he's made the wrong choice. Another figure in a school doorway says he doesn't belong there either. The shadows converge, telling the useless human not to come here. Surrounded by distorted, mocking doorways representing his past, Shinba feels completely lost. He questions if he is truly useless in the end. He wonders if there is anywhere at all for him to return to. He concludes that a useless person like himself isn't worthy of being by her side. As he stumbles, he desperately wonders where he can return to. A hand suddenly grabs his backpack, stopping his fall. Hizumi has caught him, pulling him into her arms and simply saying, "Here." Shinba looks up, stunned to see her. Back inside the karaoke room, Hizumi says she figured he might have gotten lost. Shinba apologizes, claiming he forgot something to wipe himself with and now stinks. Leaning in close, Hizumi confirms that he does indeed smell of sweat. He stammers for her to pull away. Hizumi gently takes a cloth and begins to wipe the sweat from his face and neck. She remarks on how much he's sweating. She says it's like he was doused by the rain. With a soft smile, Hizumi tells Shinba that the sweaty look suits him well. He's left blushing and confused, thanking her uncertainly. Hizumi informs him that she sang while he was gone and that it's his turn to pick a song. He feels dejected that she had to wipe his sweat off, feeling like nothing has gone well. Shinba chooses the song Singin' in the Rain. He sings the classic tune with earnestness. Hizumi watches him with a look of surprise. He finishes with a score of 71.692. Hizumi comments on his performance. Hizumi recalls that she had mentioned being interested in the movie he liked. Shinba bashfully explains that he looked up the famous theme song. He admits he'd never sung in English before and spent the previous day practicing just for this. He clarifies that he especially likes this particular song. Hizumi explains that she was interested in the scene where characters happily sing in a downpour. She describes it as a song that extols happiness, sung by people who seem to love the rain itself. She was particularly drawn to the scene where they sing after meeting their lover. Shinba realizes he should have watched the movie instead of just practicing the song. Hizumi gets his attention. She suggests they sing it again, this time as a duet. Shinba reflects on their first duet of Singin' in the Rain. He was so nervous and his throat was so shot that he could barely make a sound. But right behind him was Hizumi with her crystal-clear voice. Her singing was so beautiful and gentle, it felt as if she was adding color to his own voice. They sing together, with her smiling gently at his earnest effort. They finish their duet together on the couch. The screen displays a high score of 93.998, and Shinba marvels at how good Hizumi is despite his practice. He asks if his own singing was terrible. She bluntly confirms that it was. Hizumi critiques his performance, noting his out-of-tune vocals and strained effort from over-practicing. But then she smiles and says that despite its flaws, it was very him. He is left flustered and confused by the comment. As they prepare to leave, they say their goodbyes. Hizumi decides to walk home instead of taking the bus. Hizumi walks home alone in the rain. She puts in her earbuds and begins to listen to music. She's listening to Moonless Night Requiem, the song Shinba sang for her earlier. A small smile plays on her lips as she thinks that maybe the song isn't so bad after all. She taps her fingers to the beat of the music. As Hizumi continues her walk in the rain, the lyrics of the song echo in her thoughts. Meanwhile, Shinba is at home, now watching Singin in the rain and realizing it might be pretty good. He tries on a new outfit, hoping it looks stylish enough. A young man nervously prepares for his date tomorrow. He checks the details on his phone, a noon meeting at the station for lunch with Hizumi. Elsewhere, Hizumi herself is finishing her skincare routine, lost in thought about making a cool impression on him. The next day, 5 minutes before their meeting time, Hizumi waits at the station, wondering if Shinba has woken up yet. Just then, Shinba's voice calls her name, apologizing for making her wait. She turns around, surprised to see him. Shinba strikes a pose, greeting her in a flashy new outfit. Hizumi is visibly taken aback, questioning his choice of attire. He proudly explains that he bought new clothes and even styled his hair to match. He's internally convinced that his plan to impress her worked perfectly. The day before, he was thinking about his part-time job interview and getting new shoes. He saw an advertisement claiming women find it disgraceful to be with tacky partners. This sparked a vivid, horrifying imagining of Hizumi calling him unfashionable and suggesting they break up. Despite his limited savings, he found a jacket on sale. He then frantically researched how to style his hair. He was determined not to bring any shame to Hizumi on their date. He internally recounts buying the jacket he thought was cool. He also tried to set his hair and now nervously awaits her verdict. To his absolute shock, she tells him he looks stylish. Overjoyed and disbelieving, he asks if she's serious, and she confirms that she is. Hizumi proceeds to give a detailed, almost surgical analysis of his style, calling it wonderful and radical. She concludes that, above all, the over-the-top jacket and his old pants are a combination that is very much like him. Her words finally sink in, and Shinba realizes his outfit was a complete disaster. He feels the painful gazes of onlookers and is crushed by the humiliation. He apologizes profusely to Hizumi for his poor taste. He then suggests they go clothes shopping after their meal. Hizumi agrees to help, admitting she's not an expert but can teach him the basics. Shinba is intimidated by the fashionable storefronts, but Hizumi reassures him, suggesting that if they go inside as a couple, it will be easier. Inside the first store, a cheerful employee greets them, asking if they are looking for anything. Shinba is so overwhelmed by the customer service that he metaphorically melts into a puddle. His anxiety worsens as he overhears other shoppers whispering about how wack he looks. He shivers with shame. Hizumi watches him, her expression unreadable. Noticing his distress, Hizumi grabs Shinba's arm. She announces that they should go dress up. Shinba is flustered by her sudden closeness. Hizumi looks at him with determination and says, "Shall we?" The other customers are stunned, wondering if they're a real couple. Hizumi begins her styling session by deciding to find a color that goes well with him. She asks to see his wrist. She determines that more subdued, autumnal colors would suit him better than vivid ones. He's flustered by her breath on his hand. He notices how smooth her hands are. Next, Hizumi assesses his build. She notes that his thin, slender frame would look slovenly in loose-fitting clothes. She advises him to try something more slim-fit to complement his silhouette. As she examines him, Shinba is struck by how beautiful her hair looks. Hizumi decides to check his face next. She notices he's blushing and teases that she can't use his face as a reference if the color keeps changing. He panics, telling her not to touch his sweaty face. She coolly replies that she can wash her hands later. Up close, he's amazed by her flawless skin. As Hizumi expertly selects clothes for him, Shinba feels a vast difference between them, imagining she must have built her fashion sense through a sophisticated lifestyle. Shinba's mind wanders, imagining how beautiful Hizumi is. She snaps him out of it, reminding him they're shopping for his clothes. Even though they're so close, he feels a growing distance between them, as if her back is getting further and further away. Shinba tries on the new outfit and asks for Hizumi's opinion. She smiles and tells him it suits him, adding that at least he doesn't look out of place anymore. Thrilled with her approval and the jacket she chose, he thanks her profusely. He feels a surge of self-confidence. Feeling bold, Shinba suggests they take a picture together, but Hizumi gives an instant, firm no. He immediately panics, thinking he got ahead of himself. She clarifies that it's not him, she just doesn't like having her photo taken. He's surprised by her reason. He's left wondering why someone so beautiful would feel that way. Hizumi leads them to one last store. As they enter another fashionable shop, Shinba's anxiety returns when an employee approaches. He almost reverts to his melting state, but he catches himself, determined not to be lame again. Hizumi is already browsing nearby. With his new resolve, Shinba confidently interacts with the store clerk. All the while, Hizumi watches him from a distance with a quiet, unreadable expression. The clerk shows him a new jacket. Hizumi calls out to Shinba, showing him a hoodie with his favorite hero on it. He is ecstatic to see the Metalman collaboration hoodie. He can't believe the limited edition piece is still in stock. He eagerly asks if he can wear it home. He rushes to the counter to purchase it. At the counter, Shinba thanks the clerk for her help. He ultimately decides to just buy the hoodie for the day. As he leaves, happy in his new purchase, Hizumi watches him with a genuinely warm and happy smile. Outside, Shinba expresses his satisfaction with the day's unexpected expenses and the clothes Hizumi picked out. He's especially happy about getting the limited hoodie. Internally, Hizumi laments that he messed up her coordinated look with the childish hoodie, but she tells him that being stylish is just a matter of self-satisfaction. He feels guilty and apologizes for ignoring the outfit she picked out. She says that as far as she's concerned, those things fit him well. Hizumi gently touches his cheek, telling him that his true, most stylish points are his authentic self, his foolish appearance, his unlearning humiliation, his disgraceful weeping face, and his overeager cheer. Completely flustered, Shinba stammers an apology, wondering if she's mad at him. Hizumi just laughs softly. She says she'll see him again as they part ways. Some days later, Shinba arrives for his part-time job interview. He is greeted at the door by a woman with blonde hair. Recalling a past traumatic work experience makes him afraid of working again. However, he is determined to build something for himself, just like Hizumi, so he can chase after her and graduate from being a useless human. Believing it's what she would want for him, he steps through the door. The young man anxiously reviews the plans for their date at M*Uzi Park, the grand stage for their outing tomorrow. He feels immense pressure, knowing it's Hizumi's first visit and he can't afford any mistakes. He has researched popular attractions and efficient routes, creating a detailed escort plan for his girlfriend's sake. Hizumi, ready for bed, shares his determination to make their first date at the park an unforgettable one. Shinba excitedly announces their arrival at M*Uzi Park, gesturing towards the grand castle in the distance. He declares that he will be her escort for the day, promising she can leave everything to him and just enjoy herself. Hizumi thanks him and agrees to be in his care for the day. Eager to start, Shinba asks for her first impressions while already thinking about their first fast pass as planned. Two high school girls turn around after being approached. While Shinba consults his phone, he asks Hizumi to give him a minute. Hizumi asks the girls if they are looking to have a photo taken. Shinba offers to take the picture for them and they thank him. Hizumi takes the phone and counts down to snap a commemorative photo for them. The girls offer to take a photo of the couple in return, causing Shinba to panic. Hizumi smiles and politely declines, thanking them for their consideration. Shinba recalls that Hizumi hates being photographed. He laments that they've never managed to get a single photo of them together since they started dating. Shinba wonders how he can get Hizumi to take a photo to preserve a piece of their memory together. Shinba excitedly announces their first stop is the jet coaster, the most famous ride in the park, which Hizumi looks forward to. Hizumi reminds him that he's not only bad with heights, but also gets carsick easily. He sweats but insists he'll be fine, claiming jet coasters are an exception. Internally, however, he admits he's terrified and can't say something so pathetic to his girlfriend's face. Shinba resolves to act as the cool, unperturbed boyfriend for Hizumi's enjoyment, believing the medicine he took will help him endure. As the coaster speeds along, Hizumi has a wonderful time while Shinba looks utterly horrified. The ride reduces him to a metaphorical puddle, far from the cool image he was aiming for. Hizumi supports a very sick Shinba, telling him to hang in there as they're almost at the restrooms. After he emerges, she hands him a bottle of water and some medicine. She tells him he should have just said something if he was bad with the ride, calling him out for only being good at putting on airs, to which he apologizes. Shinba's day gets worse when he discovers the fast passes have all run out. He feels that because he had to hole up in the restroom, his entire plan is now useless. Izumi points out that because of him, they might not be able to visit all the popular attractions now. Trembling, he apologizes for showing her such a lame side of himself. She gently wipes his face as he looks on in surprise. Kneeling before him, Izumi reassures him that it's okay and tells him not to worry. Izumi explains that she has no expectations of him being cool and would rather he show her his uncool side, offering to help him with his useless human self. Her words labeling him uncool and having no expectations hit him hard. All he can do in response is apologize profusely. Izumi tells him that since he's calmed down, they should get going. Shinba points out that they can't visit the popular attractions anymore, but there are still other places to go. Reaching out her hand, Izumi reminds him that it's her first time there and she's counting on him to continue being her escort. Taking her hand, he resolves to make a recovery and make up for his miserable performance earlier. At a live show, the performers encourage the crowd to raise and wave their hands. Izumi asks Shinba if he's going to dance, but he finds it too embarrassing in front of the crowd. She leans in close, reminding him that he's supposed to be escorting her, which includes choreography. He tries to participate, but Izumi notes how small his moves and voice are. He feels his body won't move, frustrated that his attempt to make even a small comeback is failing due to embarrassment. The show announces a photo opportunity with the park's mascot, N*Siki. Shinba eagerly tells Izumi they should go take photos, and she agrees. However, she offers to take the photo for him, confirming his suspicion that she won't be in it. He feels dejected, believing he's totally ruined her first experience at the park. He wonders if she would agree to take a photo with him if he could just successfully escort her for the day. While waiting for Shinba, Izumi is recognized by one of the high school girls from earlier. The girl thanks her again, explaining that they were nervous first-time visitors from the countryside. She gushes about how beautiful and cool Izumi is. The girl then works up the courage to ask why she saw Izumi with her boyfriend but didn't see them take a picture together. Izumi asks the girl an unexpected question, if she likes it when she looks at herself. The girl admits she doesn't like it that much, and Izumi agrees that she feels the same way. Izumi elaborates that she doesn't like it when she looks at herself. The girl counters that she might like looking at a photo if it's taken with her friend. She explains that even if she doesn't like seeing herself, being with a friend she likes makes it a bit better. The girl suggests that photos are meant to preserve feelings, like the enjoyment of coming to the park with her friend. She proposes that taking a photo to not forget a feeling, like the happiness of Izumi calling out to them, isn't a bad idea. Her friend returns, asking what they were discussing. Izumi reflects on the concept of preserving feelings in the moment. Shinba introduces the next attraction, Flash Talk, where you can talk to Flash the Turtle. He explains that there's a question time where you can ask Flash anything and he'll give a fun reply, which Izumi finds interesting. On screen, Flash the Turtle greets the audience, calling them the best. The crowd, including Shinba, cheers wildly. When the host announces question time, Shinba eagerly raises his hand. A blonde young man is chosen from the crowd. The host asks his name, which is Tetsuya, and invites him to ask a question. With his girlfriend watching, Tetsuya asks Flash if he has anyone he likes. Flash declares that he does have someone he likes, his beloved child Squamato. The audience cheers for Flash's heartfelt answer. Flash then puts Tetsuya on the spot, asking if he has someone he likes too. Tetsuya becomes flustered and speechless as his girlfriend grabs onto him. Tetsuya's girlfriend urges him to answer, but he finds it too difficult in front of the crowd. Shinba remarks to Izumi that he doubts he could say anything either if he was being gawked at like that. Flash announces it's time for the final question. Putting his doubts aside, Shinba raises his hand and is chosen. He gulps, realizing the moment has come. Nervously, Shinba introduces himself to Flash. He asks Flash for advice on how to become a cool man. Flash suggests starting by honing oneself or building a wealth of experiences. But Flash adds that he believes it's more important to be able to convey affection to loved ones than to be cool. Flash points out that he himself says he loves Squamato a lot, using Tetsuya as an example. He then turns the question back to Shinba, asking if he also has someone he loves. Shinba looks toward Izumi, who is right next to him. Flash throws down the gauntlet, asking Shinba if he can be like him and convey his love. With the crowd watching, Izumi tells Shinba that he doesn't have to force himself, as it's embarrassing. Shinba's mind fills with negative thoughts about how he's ruined the day and acted pathetically. He worries about whether a public confession would make Hizumi happy. He stands frozen, microphone in hand, under the expectant gaze of the audience. Shinba gathers his courage and shouts into the microphone that he likes Hizumi. Hizumi stares at him, her eyes wide with shock. As they leave, Hizumi has to support Shinba, whose legs are trembling. He apologizes, assuming it was embarrassing for her. Hizumi notes that the crowd clapped and whistled for him, causing his legs to buckle from the pressure. She asks him why he didn't stop when she gave him an out. He explains that he had a feeling that if he stayed quiet, it would all be a lie. He confesses that he likes Hizumi, who stays by the side of a useless human. He resigns himself to the idea that there's no way she could be happy about his confession. Hizumi pulls a flustered Shinba close and with a gentle smile takes a selfie of the two of them. Stunned, Shinba asks Hizumi why she suddenly took a photo. She tells him it's so he can recall this feeling later. Looking at the photo, Hizumi admits to herself that she didn't hate seeing them together that much after all. Later, Shinba thinks about the strange day and his many mistakes, but he's glad they got their first picture. He looks at the photo on his phone, admiring how pretty Hizumi is. Shinba smiles fondly at the photo on his phone. Suddenly, he receives an incoming call from Kokoro Drugs. His happy expression shifts to one of wide-eyed shock. Meanwhile, Hizumi is also looking at their photo in her room. She receives a new message. Shinba's message reveals he got a part-time job at a drugstore and vows to become a splendid boyfriend for her. Hizumi sits on her bed, reading the message. After reading it, she falls forward onto her bed. She buries her face in her plushie. Hizumi lies on her bed with a soft, knowing smile. At the drugstore, two employees discuss the new hire, Ishikawa Shinba, starting tomorrow. One manager asks the other employee, whom she calls Bumpkin-chan, to train the newcomer, warning her to be gentle as he seems like a useless sort. A coworker teases the high schooler from the park about her trip to M*Uzi, revealing she's the one who got her the complimentary tickets. The high schooler nervously agrees to help out if the new hire proves to be unmanageable. Her coworker sits back, wondering if the useless human-kun can work there properly, setting up Shinba's first obstacle on his path to corporate comeback. On their date, Shinba asks Hizumi if they can go to Animart for a new manga release. Hizumi notes that it is an anime and merchandise store quite a walk away, but she agrees to go, gently teasing him about how much he must love the manga to go to such lengths. Inside the store, they find themselves in the adult comics section. Hizumi remarks on the selection while playfully teasing Shinba, who averts his eyes in embarrassment. She correctly deduces that he lacks the courage to buy such books in person, but has likely collected them digitally. While looking at the merchandise, Hizumi observes that people pursuing their passions shine brightly. When he looks dejected, she gently lifts his chin and offers to listen to him talk about his hobbies in the future. After Shinba buys a romance manga, Hizumi leans in close to ask what he likes about it, suggesting it might be the girl on the cover. She continues to tease him, noting that the cover character resembles someone they know, causing Shinba to become flustered. She learns it's the first volume and finds herself invested in the story. Later that evening, Hizumi lies in her bed reading the manga Shinba bought, wondering what will happen next for the main characters. She looks at an illustration of the male character confessing his love. Hizumi smiles to herself as she reads. Clutching the book to her chest, Hizumi closes her eyes with a contented smile, genuinely hoping that the characters in the story will find happiness. Hizumi receives a text from Shinba-kun, who apologizes for sleeping in and says he will be there at 2 p.m. While working her shift at Moon Coffee, she takes a business call, agreeing to make some adjustments after the holiday. After her call ends, she notes the time is 1:40 p.m. She calculates that there are 20 minutes remaining until he arrives. To pass the time, Hizumi begins to doodle in her notebook. She sketches various apologetic faces, wondering which expression Shinba will use. A small, amused smile graces her lips as she thinks about it, clearly looking forward to his arrival. Later, as they walk together, Shinba stops abruptly, apologizing to Hizumi as his shoelaces have come undone. Hizumi points out that this is already the 5th time his shoelaces have come loose today. He explains that the thick laces on his new shoes are to blame. He worries that she will think he is incompetent. To his surprise, Hizumi kneels down and offers to take a look. As she ties his shoe, Hizumi playfully muses that everyone in the world has their own strengths and weaknesses. She looks up at Shinba, reassuring him that it is not a problem since he has so many other wonderful qualities. Izumi tells Shinba not to apologize, explaining that she was actually praising him. Shinba is mortified that his girlfriend is tying his shoes for him while others are watching. He trembles with embarrassment, feeling like he could just die. Izumi finishes and lets out a quiet laugh at his flustered reaction. A young employee named Shinba is flustered as he's being scolded by his senior colleague, Nobori. She points out that he has once again mixed up the products on the display shelves, holding up 2 different brands of milk as evidence. She tells him to be more careful as he meekly apologizes. Exasperated, she calls him pathetic for an adult man. It's been a week since Shinba started his part-time job at Kokoro Drugs. He reflects that due to his poor memory, he's made many mistakes and has been frequently reprimanded by Nobori. She tells him to fix his latest error and to ask for help if he's unsure about something. When he thanks her profusely, she seems secretly pleased to be relied on by someone older. While complaining to a coworker that Shinba is useless, Nobori recalls hearing rumors about him quitting his last job. However, she privately observes him diligently taking notes and admits to herself that he's making fewer mistakes. She reconsiders, thinking he isn't entirely incapable with the right guidance. She begins to wonder if he lacked proper training at his previous job. Her thoughts are interrupted as she announces that she and a dazed Shinba are taking their break. In the break room, Nobori and Shinba are greeted by their manager, Orachi. Nobori immediately complains to Orachi about how rough her day has been due to Shinba's mistakes. Orachi calmly points out that making 4 mistakes is an improvement over the 5 he made yesterday and suggests that Nobori should praise him. Nobori angrily rejects the idea of praising Shinba, claiming that pampering men only allows them to take advantage. Her outburst motivates Shinba, who vows to work even harder. He asks her why she seems to treat men so harshly. She begins to explain that she grew up in an old-fashioned town where young women were constantly underestimated. Nobori continues, explaining that her tough attitude developed from dealing with condescending men in her hometown. Orachi listens in as Nobori explains she's staying with relatives to attend high school but has another goal in mind. She passionately declares her true ambition to become a cool city lady. The term leaves Shinba completely confused. Nobori describes her ideal woman as independent and reliable, a description Shinba finds familiar. She adds that she applied for the job because she thinks her manager, Orachi, is cool. She then excitedly recounts meeting her true idol at an amusement park, an encounter that made her incredibly happy. Shinba relates to her admiration, mentioning that his own girlfriend is that type of person. Nobori is shocked to learn that Shinba has a girlfriend. He proudly describes her as the best, saying she's cool, older, and accustomed to city life. Nobori counters that her idol is second to none. Not willing to back down, Shinba insists that his girlfriend is the most wonderful person in his life, bar none. The two glare at each other, a fierce rivalry suddenly ignited between them. The argument escalates, with neither Shinba nor Nobori realizing they are praising the same person. To settle the matter, Nobori challenges Shinba to a showdown where they will compare pictures. As they agree to the terms, Orachi calls out to Shinba. Orachi smoothly intervenes, reminding Shinba of his desire to be a respectable person who wouldn't argue with a girl. Shinba is flustered by her words. She tells him that if he strives to be a professional boyfriend, his girlfriend will be proud. She asks him what a talented man should do to make his beloved girlfriend happy, effectively shifting his focus. Completely inspired, Shinba becomes fired up, vowing to devote himself to his work with a calm heart. He dashes out of the break room as Orachi says she expects much from him. Nobori watches him go, noting that their break isn't over yet. She asks Orachi if she was being serious, and Orachi admits she was just trying to get him to stop making a scene. Another coworker warns Nobori not to overwork herself, but she is more concerned that Shinba took the speech so seriously. Orachi explains that people who try hard to seem confident often have hidden strength. Nobori asks if that's how Orachi became a store manager. Orachi denies this, proudly stating she's been full of self-confidence since birth while snapping a selfie with her lunch. She adds that she likes useful, easy-to-control people like Shinba, leading Nobori to realize he was partly hired as a toy. As closing time approaches, Nobori gives Shinba instructions for his final tasks. He immediately apologizes for the clutter and gets to work folding boxes. Nobori thinks to herself that his apologies are splendid. Just then, a man in a suit approaches her register. The man slams a bottle of medicine on the counter, startling Nobori. He addresses her as Lil Miss and demands a refund. Nobori is taken aback and notices he smells of alcohol. He explains that he bought the wrong kind before a drinking party. When Nobori asks for a receipt, the man claims he didn't get one but insists on the return. Nobori politely explains that store policy forbids returning opened goods without a receipt. The man becomes aggressive, demanding she be more flexible and forcing her to bow in apology. He threatens to report her to the manager, just as Orachi emerges from the back room. On the verge of tears, Nobori feels frustrated by her inability to stand up to the condescending customer. She's not scared, just angry at the unfairness of the situation. The man belittles her as a little miss who doesn't understand society. As Orachi watches sternly, Shinba suddenly steps forward to intervene. Shinba startles everyone by offering the irate customer a deep, sincere bow and a formal apology. Nobori is shocked by his intervention. The customer is taken aback by the sudden display. Though visibly trembling with fear, Shinba's intense apology unnerves the customer. When the man's friends call for him to hurry, he decides to leave. After the man is gone, Shinba collapses in relief, admitting how scary that was. Nobori asks why he did it. He explains that he was terrified but thought a joint apology might appease the man. Nobori points out that Shinba was crying. She teases him for not being manly, even as she wipes away her own tears. She quietly whispers that his actions made her feel safe. As she prepares to close the store, Shinba is still trembling. He reaches out and takes her arm. Holding his arm, Nobori offers Shinba a rare compliment, noting his improvement at stocking shelves. Shinba beams with happiness. He thanks his senpai profusely as Orachi watches from the doorway. Nobori reflects that while he may not be professional, he might have some talent in him. As Shinba leaves the locker room feeling exhausted, he is surprised by Hizumi, who calls his name. Shinba is shocked to find Hizumi waiting for him. She explains that she was in the area for work and decided to stop by. He grows nervous, misinterpreting her neutral expression as anger. She asks him how his part-time job went. Shinba dejectedly recounts his difficult day, admitting he made many mistakes and was dressed down by a younger girl. Fearing her disappointment, he braces for her to get angry. Instead, Hizumi gently pats his head. She then pulls him into a sudden, comforting hug, much to his surprise. As Hizumi embraces him, she comments on the heat. She notes that she's sweating. A flustered Shinba protests, worried that he's sweaty from work. Ignoring his concerns, she simply asks him why he thinks she is hugging him. Hizumi holds him close, pondering why she would embrace someone who feels he has nothing to show for his efforts. She whispers that she is very curious and asks him to tell her his thoughts. Shinba shouts that he doesn't know why she's hugging him. Hizumi laughs and decides to ask a different question. She asks if he hated the hug or if he was happy. After a moment of hesitation, he shyly admits that he was really happy. His answer brings a satisfied smile to her face. Still flushed from the heat and emotion, Hizumi smiles brightly and tells Shinba that his happiness will be their little secret. Flustered, he can only agree. Feeling exhausted, Nobori leaves the locker room. She is surprised to find Shinba still there, holding hands with a woman. Both Shinba and Hizumi are startled by her sudden appearance. Nobori recognizes the woman as her idol and lets out a scream of disbelief as Orachi also appears. Orachi immediately identifies Hizumi as Shinba's beloved girlfriend. Orachi teases Hizumi, asking if she's worried Shinba will be stolen away by her. A tense atmosphere forms as Hizumi responds only by quietly saying Orachi's name, leaving Shinba and Nobori confused. After finishing her shift, Hizumi is spotted by her co-workers. A young man, Shinba, calls out to her as his enthusiastic colleague rushes forward. The girl excitedly thanks Hizumi for helping them out in the past, her reverence shining through. One of Shinba's co-workers laments that Hizumi doesn't seem to remember him, feeling as insignificant as a wayside weed compared to a flower. As the group walks, Hizumi asks if it's alright for an outsider to join their workplace party. Her friend steps in, reassuring her that as her best friend and Shinba's girlfriend, she is more than welcome. The woman, Orachi, puts her arm around Hizumi, teasing her with backhanded compliments about her new relationship. Their intense dynamic makes the other co-workers nervous, wondering if the two are really friends. Orachi then cheerfully announces that she's taking everyone for yakiniku to hold a welcome party for Shinba, dragging her friend, Hizumi, along. At the yakiniku restaurant, Orachi proudly presents a lavish spread of meat, announcing that the meal is her treat. Shinba and his co-workers are stunned into silence, completely in awe of the feast before them. Shinba eagerly tries to grill some meat for Hizumi, but his attempts are clumsy. He mistakes the different cuts of meat. He eventually presents her with a charred piece. Just as Hizumi says she'll handle it herself, Orachi intervenes, telling him burnt food is unhealthy and offering him a perfectly grilled piece instead. Orachi moves closer to Shinba, praising him as a golden egg and offering him a piece of high-quality meat as a prize for his hard work. As she leans in to feed him, telling him to say "Awa," Hizumi watches the interaction from across the table with an unreadable expression. After Shinba swallows the meat, he stammers that it was very tasty. As he savors it, a silent and intense stare-down occurs between Hizumi and Orachi. Orachi smirks confidently, while Hizumi's expression remains cold and impassive. One of the co-workers asks how Hizumi and Orachi know each other. Orachi reveals they were high school classmates and members of the handicraft club. She laughingly adds that it felt more like a cosplay club for her, since she preferred wearing things over making them. Shinba asks if she still cosplays, and she confirms that she does. Orachi gushes about her passion for cosplay and the praise she receives online. She mentions that since they found employment, she has had Hizumi help with her outfits. Hizumi interjects that she was paid for her time, as she finds Orachi's personality difficult to handle. Her comment piques Shinba's curiosity, and he shyly asks Hizumi if she ever did cosplay as well. Hizumi replies that she didn't enjoy the one time she tried it. Orachi teases her, calling the outfit a masterpiece and threatening to find a picture. This makes Shinba extremely flustered and curious. Annoyed by Orachi's drunken antics, Hizumi announces she's going to wash her hands, and her co-worker decides to go with her. With the others gone, Shinba remarks that Hizumi and Orachi don't seem to get along that badly despite their sarcasm. Orachi changes the subject, bluntly asking Shinba if he and Hizumi have slept together yet. He chokes on his drink in shock. When she presses further, asking if they have at least kissed, a flustered Shinba admits they have not. Orachi's questions cause Shinba to doubt his own relationship. He admits he's not even sure if they're really dating. While he believes Hizumi doesn't hate him, he confesses his deep-seated fear that as a useless person, if he demands anything more from her, she will begin to resent him. Orachi summarizes his dilemma. He doesn't know if Hizumi truly loves him and doesn't feel like they're actually dating. She suggests he should test the waters to find out for sure, noting that they've never been on a trip together. She pulls out an accommodation coupon and tells him to invite Hizumi. Shinba is shocked by the implication of the coupon. Orachi explains that if Hizumi truly loves him, they'll spend the night together, and it could be an event that confirms her feelings. Shinba panics, worried about what will happen if she rejects him. Before he can protest further, Orachi gets up and says what will happen if he's rejected. She slams the door to their private room, trapping him inside. Pinning a terrified Shinba down, Orachi suggests that if Hizumi rejects his invitation, he can simply go with her instead. She leans in close, whispering that she's been itching to stretch her wings and wouldn't mind doing so with a gentleman like him. A flustered Shinba reacts to being called a gentleman, just as Hizumi slides open the door, catching them in a compromising position. Hizumi stares at them with a cold, suspicious gaze. Orachi quickly apologizes to Hizumi, claiming she got a bit drunk and was just bothering Shinba. Hizumi and Orachi trade passive-aggressive remarks. Hizumi sarcastically notes it's good Orachi wasn't so drunk as to go after someone with a girlfriend. Orachi retorts with feigned concern for Shinba's purity. Watching their tense exchange, Shinba becomes more confused than ever about whether they are friends or foes. Orachi whispers to Hizumi that men like Shinba are precious. She warns that he can be easily snatched away if Hizumi lets her guard down. After delivering her warning, Orachi cheerfully announces it's her turn to use the restroom and leaves the couple alone. Shinba tries to explain the situation with Orachi, but Hizumi says she already knows. He then remembers the meat he was grilling for her. He finds it completely charred. He's devastated. Hizumi apologizes, explaining she was trying to replicate Orachi's tasty grilled meat, but got distracted and forgot about it. Hizumi tells Shinba not to worry, admitting she doesn't care for Orachi's grilling anyway and knows he can only focus on one thing at a time. She explains that grilling while maintaining a conversation is difficult. She then perfectly cooks a piece of meat and offers it to him. Amazed by how delicious it looks, he impulsively grabs her and pulls her closer. Shinba pulls Hizumi onto his lap. She leans in and feeds him the piece of meat. After one bite, he's stunned by how good it is. She asks if it's better than before, and he confirms it is, his heart pounding in his chest. Hizumi notes his reaction. She points out that his heart is beating faster than before. She adds that his breath is rougher, and his tongue is more satisfied. She tells him they are going to rehearse something. She begins to count down from 3, leaving him utterly confused. At Hizumi's prompting, Shinba confirms his racing heart and heavy breathing when she asks him why he's feeling this way. He becomes flustered and blurts out that it's because the food was delicious and because he loves her. She gently pinches his cheek and says that's right. Leaning in close, Hizumi smiles and tells Shinba to remember this one specific taste, her own taste. A blushing and overwhelmed Shinba is left completely speechless by her intimate words. After saying goodbye to their coworkers, Shinba and Hizumi are left alone. As they stand together, the accommodation coupon in his pocket feels heavy, and Orochi's words about testing Hizumi's love echo in his mind. Hizumi boards her transport and waves goodbye to Shinba. Left alone on the platform, he clutches the coupon in his pocket, filled with a single, pressing question: does Hizumi truly love him as her lover? The first person he ever loved stood in the rain, offering a quiet apology and a final goodbye. His first friend waved a casual hand, offering a simple sorry and a see you. The first senior he knew callously dismissed him, telling him not to come anymore. A woman named Hizumi stands in a doorway, her parting words not of finality but of hope. She tells him she will see him again. Those were the words spoken to him on the day they first met. It's been a week since he left his job, and he stands aimlessly before an arcade game. He wanders the streets, feeling too unmotivated to even look for a new job or enjoy his hobbies. Since leaving his job, he feels as though his own limbs have given up on him. His aimless wandering leads him to a small, local cinema. A sign announces the cinema's impending closure in just 7 days. He notes that while the place is old, the tickets are cheap. He thinks that maybe a movie is the perfect distraction for his current state. Deciding it's a good way to pass some time, he buys a ticket. He pushes open the door and enters the theater. He covers his nose, immediately noticing the smell of mold in the air. The place is clearly beat up and worn out. He initially believes he's the only person in the audience. Then he sees her, a lone woman sitting in the empty rows. She turns her head and their eyes meet for a moment. He is taken aback by her presence. With only the two of them in the theater, he muses that some people must have strange tastes as the film begins to roll. After the movie, Shinba comments on its obvious low budget. Hizumi calls out to him, catching him by surprise. She smiles and asks if he's a movie fan. He admits that he normally only watches superhero movies and is only here because he was just fired. His honest, slightly pathetic reason makes her chuckle. She explains that the cheap price is because the owner only screens old, low-budget movies as a hobby. She adds that since the place is closing in a week, she's usually the only one there. Stretching, she says she doesn't care for popular movies, preferring old classics and low-budget films like this one. She enjoys them because she can feel the creator's passion and the clever tricks they use to work around their limited budgets and technology. Shinba can't help but point out that despite the passion, the movie's result was still terrible. Hizumi suddenly invites him to come every day until the closing date, leaving him stunned. She explains that the old, moldy theater holds a lot of memories for her, and she wants someone else to be there for its final moments. She confirms that the place holds both good and bad memories for her. He agrees to her proposal, saying he'll come if he feels up to it. She accepts his non-committal answer and prepares to leave. At the door, she turns and waves, telling him she'll see him again. He reflects on how long it's been since someone said that to him, marking this as their first official meeting. During one of their talks, he confesses his feelings of being a useless human with no prospects who always escapes into self-indulgence and gets nowhere. He tells her that while it would be easy to just give up, he can't. In response, she suggests he try living on as the useless human he is. Hizumi accurately describes his state as someone who can't forgive his own uselessness, constantly trying and failing to move forward, trapped in an eternal struggle. He agrees with her assessment and apologizes for being a sad excuse for a human. She reassures him that he doesn't need to apologize because being stuck isn't inherently bad. The week they spent together at the theater concludes. The story returns to the present on the cinema's final rainy day. Shinba is running on no sleep after watching all the movies Hizumi recommended. Hizumi arrives and expresses concern over his tired appearance. He proudly shows her the pamphlets for the movies, explaining that he watched them all and even bought the entire collection online, much to her surprise. He shyly confesses that he stayed up all night because he was so eager to talk to her about the films. He feels a sense of urgency, believing this is his last opportunity to really talk with Hizumi. The final screening begins. His lack of sleep finally catches up to him, and he passes out mid-movie. Hizumi notices a jacket has fallen to the floor. She gently places the jacket over his sleeping form. He dreams of all the things he wanted to discuss with her. She watches him with a gentle smile. He wakes up on her lap, feeling a sense of happiness. After the movie, standing in the rain, he apologizes to Hizumi for falling asleep. He asks what kind of movie their last one was. She tells him it was a romance movie with a happy ending where the couple got together, and she reflects on whether it was a fitting finale. He berates himself, feeling that by falling asleep, he defeated the entire purpose of watching their final movie together. The thought of another final goodbye fills him with dread. He chases after her through the rain, calling out her name. Gathering all his courage, he asks if she would be willing to watch a movie with him again. Hizumi turns and asks if he is asking her out on a date. He becomes extremely flustered, trying and failing to explain his intentions. He realizes his panicked rambling now sounds exactly like a love confession. She cuts through his stammering and asks him plainly if he wants to go out with her. Shocked, he stammers out a yes. Hizumi lists all the reasons their pairing seems illogical. He's jobless and unreliable, while she's a stranger he barely knows. She asks him if he truly believes a love story like theirs could have a happy ending. Crushed, he agrees with her, believing happiness with a useless person like him is out of reach. Tears streaming down his face, Shinba confesses that despite everything, he had so much fun watching movies with her. His genuine confession seems to move her. She extends her hand towards him and says, "Sure, let's go out then." He stares in disbelief, unable to comprehend her acceptance. She takes his hand and tells him that from now on, he is her boyfriend. She defines their relationship. He's going out with a strange woman who spends her time alone in a beat-up theater. She then asks him what that makes her, prompting him to say it out loud. He finally says the word, realizing that a useless human like him is now going out with a girlfriend. Tears stream down her face as she smiles at him. She tells him she'll be in his care. As her inner thoughts reveal, she initially thought his interest was just a whim. But no matter how many times he saw her disgraceful side, he always promised to see her again. She initially thought his interest was a whim that would end when he saw how useless she was. Despite her flaws, she found herself falling deeper in love with her boyfriend. The scene returns to the present, with Hizumi waving goodbye and promising to see him later. He holds an accommodation coupon, thinking a trip might be the perfect event to confirm her love for him. He realizes he never properly confessed that day, and decides to do it on this trip to solidify their feelings. Hizumi quietly suggests they go on a trip sometime. Shinba is surprised by her suggestion. Meanwhile, Orachi reveals on a phone call that she was just dumped but has successfully arranged the trip for Hizumi. She wonders aloud if the trip will make them act more like a couple. Orachi's warning about someone snatching him away if she's not careful rings in her ears. She sits on the train, reflecting on their unique relationship and remembering his joyful expression. While driving along a coastal road, Hizumi announces to Shinba that they've arrived. A nervous Shinba questions if she's sure about going on this trip with him, but Hizumi playfully reminds him that he was the one who wanted to come after getting the coupons. When he asks where she got the coupons from, she looks ahead while driving. Hizumi reveals that Orachi gave them to her. Hizumi wonders if Shinba actually wanted to go on the trip with Orachi. Meanwhile, Shinba recalls his own excitement, revealing he used the money saved from the coupons to buy a mecha shark water gun from a movie she likes, eager for a showdown later. As they drive, she asks if he was saying something, but he dismisses it. Hizumi points out that he only bought one, to which he can only apologize. At the crowded beach, Shinba reflects on his surprise that Hizumi would invite him on a trip. He resolves to use this rare opportunity to confess properly and proudly declare that they are lovers. His inner temptation, personified by Orochi, whispers that he might get lucky and even get a kiss. However, his morals stand firm, insisting such thoughts are for after he's graduated from his useless human status. His train of thought is interrupted when Hizumi appears. Hizumi arrives in her swimsuit, apologizing to Shinba for making him wait. His inner knight representing his morals immediately crumbles as his temptation remarks on how fragile the morals of boys are. Shinba offers to go buy juice, but Hizumi tells him to stay and watch the luggage. She reminds him of a time he got lost in a service area parking lot. She confidently tells him to sit quietly and wait because she can definitely find him no matter where he is. Shinba worries that someone might try to pick up a beauty like Hizumi while she's alone. Suddenly, he is approached by someone asking for help. 3 young women in bikinis approach a flustered Shinba, asking for his help. Elsewhere, Hizumi gets drinks after waiting in a long line. As she walks back, a group of men try to hit on her, asking her to come play with them. She bluntly turns them down, stating that she has someone waiting for her. The men persist, boasting about their accomplishments. One is a model with many followers, and another manages several companies, calling themselves talented men. Hizumi calmly dismisses them, explaining that the person she is with is unremarkable and unpopular, but he is the one she wants to be with. Hizumi walks away, leaving the men stunned. She notices another man on the beach being picked up by a woman. With a serious expression, she looks on. She thinks to herself that Shinba wouldn't do something like that. She returns to their spot, apologizing for the wait. However, she is met with a surprising scene that leaves her shocked. Hizumi finds Shinba with the 3 girls, who are thanking him profusely for finding an expensive ring that all 3 of them couldn't locate. When they see Hizumi return, they are shocked to learn she is his girlfriend. The girls start gossiping about how beautiful Hizumi is, while she glares at Shinba and asks who these people are. The girls introduce themselves as Ami, Kumi, and Nami. They explain that Nami had dropped her favorite ring, and Shinba helped them find it. As they talk, Shinba notices that Hizumi is squeezing his arm and seems to be acting differently. Hizumi forcefully tries to lead Shinba away, telling him it is time for them to go. The girls stop them, suggesting that since they're all there, they should play together. They express their curiosity about Hizumi and her relationship with Shinba. Hizumi hesitates, considering Shinba's failings. Shinba, eager to use the water gun he bought, enthusiastically asks Hizumi to join in. Seeing his excitement, she quietly agrees to go with that. The girls are thrilled and invite Hizumi to join their fun. As they all play in the water, Hizumi uses the water gun Shinba brought. He watches her, wondering if he managed to show her a bit of his good side. Shinba has a great time playing with Hizumi and the girls, building sandcastles and taking pictures. He hopes that if he can keep showing her his good side, he can build up his confidence. While floating on a large inflatable duck, he loses his balance. With renewed determination, he resolves to finally confess to her properly, just as he slips. Shinba tumbles off the inflatable duck and splashes into the water. The girls watch in shock, calling out his name in alarm. Hizumi's expression turns to one of serious concern as she also calls out his name. The girls ask if Shinba is okay as he struggles in the water. He splashes desperately, calling out Hizumi's name. Seeing him in distress, Hizumi's face hardens with determination. Without a moment's hesitation, she leaps into the water to save him. Hizumi swiftly pulls Shinba out of the water as the other girls watch. She holds him close, her expression grim. He clings to her, coughing and sputtering her name. Her face is soaked as she looks down at him. Back on the beach, he apologizes for making a scene, assuring the concerned girls that he's fine. Hizumi tells the other girls that they'll be fine and to go enjoy themselves, as Shinba won't be moving for a while. Shinba laments his failure to show his good side, wondering if he'll ever be able to feel proud. Hizumi asks how he's feeling. He claims he's just tired and will be fine after resting. She calls him pathetic and shifts over to straddle him. Hizumi teases Shinba about how he was flailing and frantically calling her name while she rescued him, pointing out how tightly he was squeezing her arm. A trembling Shinba apologizes profusely. She looks at him intently and asks why he called out to her, even though Nami and the others were closer by. Flustered, Shinba explains that when he thought he was going to drown or die, her face was the only one that appeared in his mind. Hizumi quietly takes this in, her expression softening. She tells him his head must hurt lying down like that, then pulls him onto her lap. Hizumi gently tells Shinba she'll let him stay on her lap until he settles down. He agrees, still feeling pathetic for being rescued and now resting on her lap, thinking there's no way he can confess like this. But as he rests his head on her lap, he finds it incredibly calming. Hizumi observes him, thinking about how he was rescued from drowning only to find such relief in her lap that he could fall asleep. Looking down at the sleeping Shinba, Hizumi smiles and tells him it's a good thing he's on her lap, as this wouldn't work with anyone else's. Later, as the sun sets, they say goodbye to the three girls. Nami laments that she didn't have a fateful encounter like in the movie Namekoi. Nami explains that Namekoi was a hit romance movie about a high school girl who had a fated encounter with a boy on this very beach, though they had to split up at the end. Shinba finds the movie uninteresting. The girls tease Nami for comparing herself to the lead actress, Yuzumi. Hizumi asks Shinba if he knows the movie. He admits he's seen it, more or less. He reflects that it would be convenient to share a so-called fateful romance. They wave goodbye to the girls one last time. As they drive away, he resolves to strive to be able to puff out his chest as a proper couple. Arriving at the traditional inn, Shinba reaffirms his goal to confess to Hizumi again that night. As they check in, his inner temptress reminds him of the implications of a couple staying the night together. She tells him to think back on it. He recalls the figure of his girlfriend in her swimsuit. He also remembers the sensation of her thigh pillow. Inside their room, Shinba sees two futons laid out and tries to stop his mind from wandering. His thoughts are interrupted when Hizumi invites him to come over, causing his morals and desires to once again be at war. Hizumi sees Shinba off to the bath, playfully warning him not to get any funny ideas. He resolves that by the end of the trip, they will act more like real lovers, and he will finally graduate from being a useless human. His mind flashes back to a friend teasingly asking if he and Hizumi had been intimate yet, causing him to spit out his drink in shock. Shinba grows increasingly flustered, cursing his brain for overthinking the situation. Hizumi sighs in relief as she soaks in the hot spring, feeling tired from the day's activities. Suddenly, she hears Shinba splashing and yelling for her from the other side of the partition. Hizumi looks over with a faint, amused smile. Just then, a group of other girls enter the bath, excited about the open-air setting. Suddenly, Hizumi is approached by the three girls she met at the beach earlier. They are overjoyed at the coincidence of staying at the same inn. The girls recall how Shinba found the ring for them and how kind Hizumi was. One of the girls then asks Hizumi how she and Shinba first met. Hizumi explains that they first met at a deserted movie theater, prompting the girls to ask who confessed first. She admits that Shinba was the one who confessed directly to her, though it didn't really sound like a proper confession. The girls are impressed, remarking that Shinba is surprisingly manly for making a direct confession. Hizumi smiles faintly and says he's nothing like that. She recalls the day they were supposed to go to a movie, but he arrived late after sleeping through 3 alarms. Hizumi remembers his helpless expression as he sought her forgiveness, a moment she still recalls vividly. She thinks about how he desperately wants to be a good boyfriend, but often fails and curses himself for it, just like at the arcade and karaoke. As the girls listen, Hizumi reflects on how she would always find herself gazing into his eyes, which were always seeking forgiveness. Hizumi continues her thoughts, smiling as she recalls how Shinba would show her more of his expressions, each filled with worry. She then tells the girls that he is a useless boyfriend, and she cannot recommend him. The girls are taken aback by her statement. One of them hesitantly asks if Hizumi hates Shinba. The girls, intrigued, ask if they can hear more of Shinba's useless episodes. Hizumi smiles, agreeing to tell them more. The girls listen with rapt attention. A memory of Hizumi taking care of a sick Shinba is shown. Another memory shows them singing karaoke together. A third memory shows them at an amusement park, wearing matching mouse ears. Nami listens to the stories with a knowing smile. Hizumi and Nami continue their conversation in the hot spring. The girls laugh as Hizumi recounts a story about Shinba apologizing while trembling. Nami looks at Hizumi and says with certainty, "You really love Shin-chan, don't you?" Nami explains that the way Hizumi describes him shows how closely she observes his every action. She finishes by telling a blushing Hizumi that she looks really cute when retelling her memories with Shinba. Hizumi turns away, flustered, and denies it. Nami smiles, saying she's relieved to hear it. She recounts how worried Shinba was at the beach, wondering if he was a good fit for Hizumi or if she'd get picked up by someone else. Nami looks at her and says, "You're deeply loved, you know." Hizumi quietly agrees, saying that it seems so for now. Nami explains that watching Shinba's devotion and Hizumi's immediate reaction to him drowning made her reconsider her stance on love. She says that maybe falling in love again wouldn't be so bad. Hizumi asks what she means by again. One of the other girls explains that Nami's boyfriend just broke up with her, and this trip was to cheer her up. Nami stretches, saying that she'd thought she was done with love, but now realizes it's a nice thing after all. She resolves that it's time for her to move on. Hizumi listens as Nami talks about leaving behind her own hateful memories. Nami declares that she wants to become just like Hizumi, aspiring to a love where she can always gaze at her boyfriend and feel cherished. Hizumi, flustered, can only manage a quiet, uncertain response. She quickly excuses herself to leave the bath, prompting her friends to ask about their backstroke battle. As she leaves, the girls laugh and wonder if the heat got to her head. As she gets her things, Hizumi thinks about what it means to be loved. She sees a message from Shinba, who tried to buy her favorite ice cream but then awkwardly backtracked, realizing it would melt. Her thoughts drift to a painful memory of someone telling her goodbye. The words about leaving behind hateful memories echo in her mind. Shinba is startled but happy to see Hizumi emerge from the bath. He apologizes for his strange messages, explaining he thought she'd be happy since she likes chocolate. Hizumi touches her hair, quietly acknowledging that he remembered. Flustered, Shinba suggests they buy some snacks and go back to their room. As Hizumi eats her ice cream on the veranda, Shinba thinks that the atmosphere around her feels softer than usual. She finishes her treat and remarks that it's getting late. She turns to him and says, "Let's go to bed." Shinba's heart thumps as she gently asks if they should. They lie stiffly in their separate futons, their hearts pounding in the silence. Hizumi agrees and reaches for the light remote. With a beep, she turns off the lights. In the dark room, they lie awake in their separate beds as the clock ticks. Shinba grows restless, unable to calm down. Hizumi appears to be resting peacefully. His agitation increases with every tick of the clock. He begins to sweat, overwhelmed by his thoughts. Shinba writhes in his futon, unable to sleep. He admits to himself that thinking about Hizumi sleeping so close is filling his head with funny ideas. Suddenly, Hizumi speaks from her futon, asking if he can't sleep. She points out that he's been stirring the whole time, and Shinba is mortified. Hizumi realizes why he's so restless. Hizumi calmly tells him that she's worn out from driving and will have to do it again tomorrow, then asks if he feels no guilt about wanting to vent his desires on her. Then, looking at him, she agrees to his unspoken request. Shinba is horrified, frantically apologizing and insisting he had no such intention. He realizes that for the entire day, Hizumi had to drive and even rescue him while he was only thinking about himself. Hizumi chuckles, telling him he's apologizing too much and that she was just joking. She rolls over, admitting she's wiped out and hopes he'll hold back this time. She tugs on his sleeve and tells him that while he might be a useless human, she doesn't think he's a bad person at all. Shinba is touched and thanks her. Hizumi says that even though they are dating, it's weird they don't do the things lovers do. She clarifies that she means lewd things. Shinba panics, denying that's what he meant. Hizumi tells him there's just one thing she wants to say. She explains that it is not that she doesn't want to get closer or do those things with him. Hizumi explains that before she can get closer to anyone, there are too many memories she must first forget. He grabs her hand, determined. Startled by his sudden movement, Hizumi looks at him. Shinba tells her it's okay, and that he understands everyone has hateful memories they must leave behind to move on. He tells her he went through the same thing, needing to forget the bitterness of a past workplace before he could start a new job. He says that she was the one who helped him achieve that. He gently touches her face, promising he will still love her even if they don't do the things lovers do. He tells her that this time around, he wants to be the one to help her forget those hateful memories. Shinba looks at her earnestly and promises that he will always be by her side. The clock strikes midnight. Moved by his words, Hizumi leans in and kisses him. They embrace and kiss in their futons. Hizumi pulls back and whispers that thanks to him, she forgot a little just now. Shinba, blushing intensely, says that's why he was able to get a bit closer to her. Hizumi rolls back to her own futon, musing that while he's unreliable, he's not completely useless. She turns to him and says that she will be in his care from now on, as his lover. Shinba is overjoyed at her words. He realizes that Hizumi also thinks of him as her lover. He quickly apologizes and says he'll go to sleep, but Hizumi tells him to calm down as they have to check out early. As he tries to sleep, he feels the heat in his cheeks and notes how calm Hizumi seems. He can't help but wonder if she's experienced with this sort of thing. Hizumi lies on her side, a gentle, blushing expression on her face. During the drive home, Shinba thinks that while he doesn't know what things Hizumi wants to forget, he resolves to become a boyfriend who can help her forget all of it. Shinba feels a new confidence, believing that as lovers they can overcome anything. He thinks that as long as Hizumi is by his side, he'll be fine. They walk together holding hands. Meanwhile, a woman on an airplane looks out at the city below, remarking that it has been a long time. The woman looks at a picture of Shinba and an actress named Yuzume on her phone, wondering if he still remembers how he used to love her. She is Yuzume, the actress from Namekoi, and she's certain he can't forget her, his first love. With a possessive look, she declares that Shinba is hers. At a buffet, Hizumi observes that her partner has eaten too much, too quickly. She tells him not to gorge himself and offers to eat the rest of his food for him. She enjoys her meal slowly, remarking that his pale, apologetic face makes for a fine side dish, especially for a grown man letting his girlfriend eat his scraps. Hizumi offers to tie her partner's obi for him, teasing that his inability to tie things seems to extend from his shoelaces to his very life. She tells him not to worry, promising that even if he can't tie things up well, she'll still drag him along, even if it hurts him a bit. Upon discovering an arcade corner in the inn, Hizumi notes how easy her partner is to read, seeing his eyes light up with excitement to play more games. She finds the idea of him nerding out over ancient-looking game cabinets interesting, concluding that she's having fun on their trip with a useless human, either way. Hizumi tells her partner not to buy any souvenirs, pointing out he has no one else to give them to. Instead, she suggests he keep his purchase a secret and give it to her when they get back. She admits she's looking forward to seeing how he'll look while worrying over what gift he should give her and whether she'll approve of his choice. She opens the gift and finds a hairpin inside. She initially thinks that he should know she doesn't own any clothes that would suit such an accessory. Despite her thoughts, she puts her hair up with it, looking pleased with the result while musing that this useless human thought it was the correct choice. Her curiosity piqued, she picks up her phone to look something up. Hizumi looks up the meaning of a hairpin and learns it's a gift given from a man to a woman to convey deep affection, respect, or even for a confession or proposal. Believing he must have picked it without knowing the meaning, a blushing Hizumi decides to give his gift a passing mark. In a childhood memory, a young girl named Miyabi offers a proposition to a young boy, Shinba. She explains his job will be to hold her bag and stick by her side, essentially becoming her dog. Eager to be with her, Shinba enthusiastically accepts the role, promising to always stay by her side. Years later, at their high school graduation, Shinba confesses his love to Miyabi in the rain. With a sad expression, she apologizes and says goodbye. She reveals that she has landed a job overseas and will be heading to America immediately. In another memory, a woman tells Miyabi that to have a career befitting a celebrity's daughter, she must leave behind her old life and adopt the stage name Amino Yuzume. Waking up in the present, Yuzume is told by the same woman to get ready for an interview. At a press conference, reporters celebrate the long-awaited return to Japan of the famous mother-daughter actresses Amino Mikoto and Amino Yuzume. A reporter asks Yuzume what she wants to do first now that she's back in the country. She smiles and says there's someone she wants to meet again after a long time, her pet dog. At his job at Kokoro Drugs, Shinba is working with uncharacteristic energy, loudly welcoming customers. His co-workers, Nobori and Orachi, discuss his sudden change in demeanor, with Orachi mentioning that she heard he went on a trip with Hizumi. Orachi mischievously suggests to Nobori that something must have occurred during the trip. She explains that if a man becomes more vigorous after an overnight trip, it implies a physical encounter. She teases that even Nobori should know what that implies, leaving her completely flustered. As Shinba comes out for a break, an agitated Nobori confronts him, calling him a lewd human. She accuses him of soiling Hizumi, much to the amusement of Orachi in the background. Nobori, flustered, accuses him of violating Hizumi, which only adds to his confusion. Shinba denies that anything of that nature has happened with Hizumi. Just then, Hizumi arrives to pick him up from work. Shinba apologizes for making her come all the way, but she says it's fine. Hizumi notes that this is the first time they've seen each other since the trip. The comment causes Shinba to blush and panic, as he vividly recalls their kiss. Noticing his reaction, Hizumi asks him what's wrong, amused by his flustered state. Hizumi teases Shinba relentlessly, questioning how a grown man could get so worked up just from recalling their night together, which involved only a cuddle and a single kiss. She calls him pure for his age, and playfully wonders how he would react if she gave him 2 kisses. Overwhelmed, Shinba admits that it was his first ever kiss. Hizumi quietly processes this information. Determined not to appear pathetic, Shinba resolves to show his manly side. He offers to carry Hizumi's bag as they prepare to leave. From the drugstore window, Orachi watches them go, satisfied that the tickets she gave him yielded results. At a cafe, Yuzumi sits alone. She receives a text message pinpointing Shinba's workplace. She looks up just in time to see him walking outside with Hizumi. The sight catches her by surprise. Yuzumi decides to follow them as Hizumi suggests they do some shopping. Shinba eagerly offers to carry her things. After a stop at a toy store, they emerge holding hands. Watching from a distance, Yuzumi notes with bitterness how well they seem to be getting along. The sight of Shinba holding hands with another woman darkens Yuzumi's expression. She glares after them, her thoughts possessive as she reminds herself that he is supposed to be her pet dog. When Shinba arrives at his apartment, he's startled to find someone waiting for him, who comments on his living situation. As she lowers her sunglasses, he recognizes her and exclaims, "Miyabi-chan." Miyabi seems pleased that he still calls her by her real name. A bewildered Shinba asks why she's there. She explains that she came to meet him. She tells him they have a lot to talk about. Shinba reflects on his history with Miyabi, his childhood friend, first love, and the person who broke his heart, now a famous actress. As they sit together, she explains she's back in Japan for work after wrapping up shows overseas. He feels awkward, admitting he didn't know and realizing how distant she has become. Shinba feels awkward and wonders why she wants to meet after rejecting him. Miyabi is equally nervous, trying to figure out how to act in front of the guy she rejected. She worries that he might hate her now. She panics internally, thinking that appearing so flustered ruins her carefully crafted femme fatale persona. Hoping he might still be in love with her, Miyabi peeks over at him. She asks about the person she saw him with earlier. Shinba hesitantly explains that the woman is his girlfriend. The revelation stuns Miyabi. Trying to recover, she belittles his new relationship, suggesting he's with a creepy girl who doesn't suit him. Shinba's demeanor changes instantly, and he grabs Miyabi's arm. He tells her firmly that she is not to badmouth his girlfriend. Miyabi seems taken aback, but also finds his display of affection displeasing. She then asks if he loves Hizumi more than he used to love her. Miyabi leans in close, asking if he loves his new girlfriend more than his first love. She presses him further, asking if he still loves her. Shinba, flustered, tries to argue that she turned him down. Miyabi cuts him off, demanding an answer to her question. Miyabi calls it distasteful that he would ignore her to devote himself to someone else. She grabs his hand tightly, telling him she will make him remember his first love and once again wag his tail for her. A trembling Shinba pushes back, telling Miyabi to stop because he is already with Hizumi. In her mind, however, his desperate rejection transforms into a heartfelt confession, and she hears the words, "love you." She internally praises his devotion and courage for trying to refuse her. Finding it adorable how he's still so conscious of her, she imagines him as her loyal pet once again. Miyabi snaps back to reality, realizing she almost got carried away by her femme fatale fantasy. She quickly backpedals, agreeing with Shinba that he would obviously come to hate a useless person like her. Her sudden change of heart leaves Shinba utterly confused. Miyabi concludes that at the very least, Shinba doesn't hate her. She believes he still hasn't forgotten his first love. Changing the subject entirely, she asks him how far he has gone with his girlfriend. Shinba shyly admits that he and Hizumi have only kissed once. Seeing this as an opportunity, Miyabi declares that she still has room to catch up. She vows to make him remember her so intensely that he'll forget his girlfriend and confess his love to her all over again. Elsewhere, Hizumi lies in her bed. She recalls Shinba's words about their kiss being his first. She touches her lips, lost in the thought that she was his one and only first kiss. Back on the bench, Miyabi makes her move. She leans in close and kisses a shocked and blushing Shinba. Pulling away, Miyabi taunts the trembling Shinba, pointing out that he has now cheated on his girlfriend. With a sly smile, she asks if the kiss from his first love has helped him remember what it tastes like. Hizumi sits on a train, surrounded by other commuters. She remembers a young man presenting her with a cheap, heart-shaped toy ring from a capsule machine. He nervously offered it to her, calling her Hizumi-san. Amused, she told him she couldn't wear it outside and discreetly slipped it into her blazer. A young man works with intense efficiency during a 10x points promotion at Kokoro Drugs. He efficiently thanks a customer, hoping they will visit again. His coworker Nobori watches in bewilderment as he swiftly stocks products and demands his next task. Nobori asks her colleague Orachi if she's noticed that Shinba also seems energetic today, but feels that something is off with him. She asks Orachi if she knows anything about it, but Orachi replies that she does not. Orachi watches Shinba frantically stocking shelves, muttering that he's a sinner and labor is his atonement. A flashback reveals Shinba's guilt over having cheated on Hizumi by kissing another girl. One of his co-workers explains to the other that Shinba has become a monster given form by his self-awareness as a perpetrator, spending the whole day working to atone for what he did. Orachi recalls how Shinba used to gush about Hizumi, which makes his current behavior all the more suspect. She considers his extreme concentration a form of escapism, while Nobori wonders why he's suddenly working so hard. Nobori calls out to him as Nobori-senpai. She is startled when he suddenly appears, robotically reporting that he has finished his task and asking for his next one. Shinba desperately begs for more work, explaining that he must atone for his sin with work or else he'll lose it. He pleads with his senpai, leaving her terrified by his intensity. Nobori is frightened by his strange behavior. She backs away, calling him scary and pleading for him to come back. Nobori runs from Shinba, who chases her demanding work, while she yells for him to go back to being useless. Watching the scene, Orachi remarks that something definitely happened. She muses that she would like to find out what that is. Later, Hizumi walks down a corridor. She finds Orachi waiting for her around a corner. Hizumi calls out to Orachi. She asks what the matter is and why Orachi is waiting for her. Orachi correctly guesses that Hizumi also doesn't know anything yet. Hizumi looks on, confused. As two co-workers peek from behind a corner, Orachi tells Hizumi to look, pointing out that Shinba is here. Shinba walks past like a zombie, muttering that he is a sinner and labor is his atonement. Hizumi watches in shock. Orachi explains that he is like a machine, constantly looping on regret and repentance. She asks Hizumi if anything comes to mind, but Hizumi can only recall him being happy on their last outing. Orachi remarks that either way, it can't be healthy for him to stay like that. Hizumi decides she will ask him what happened to make him torment himself to this extent. Shinba is surprised as Hizumi calls out his name. He greets her nervously. Hizumi gently asks him what's bothering him, reassuring him that he can tell her. Shinba begins to stammer, quivering. He is haunted by the memory of being told that he cheated on his girlfriend. Shinba shouts that a sinner like him can't possibly be by her side. He yells that they should just break up, leaving Hizumi shocked. Orachi watches him run off. She comments that even Hizumi couldn't get an answer from him. Hizumi lets out a hollow laugh. Hizumi's expression shifts, and she says that he didn't mean to say such excessive things. She calls him a useless human easily swayed by emotion, and suggests they sit down for a talk. She walks away with an unsettling laugh, swaying unsteadily. She bumps into a wall, and Orachi notes that her laugh sounds different than usual, wondering if they'll be all right. Later that night, Hizumi walks alone down the street. She checks her phone for a response from Shinba, asking what happened. She wonders to herself what just happened. A woman in a car calls out to her, saying she has been waiting for Hizumi. Hizumi looks up in surprise and asks who she is. The woman introduces herself as Yuzumi, an actress. Hizumi is momentarily surprised, recognizing her. Yuzumi says she has some business with her. She specifies that it is about Shinba. Yuzumi explains that in this restaurant, one can only get a private room with a referral. She specifies that it is only for a small subset of VIPs. She boasts that she can always invite a certain someone to places like this. She claims she can bring him more happiness than any common person can, unlike an average girl. Hizumi calmly takes a sip of her drink. She asks what this business regarding Shinba is. Yuzumi slaps a stack of cash on the table and tells Hizumi to take it and get her hands off of Shinba. She offers to provide more if it's insufficient or to introduce Hizumi to an actor or manager she knows. She suggests that a woman of Hizumi's caliber should be popular with desirable bachelors of high society. Yuzumi declares herself a greedy person who desires both her status as an actress and the person she wants and will not be satisfied until she has both. Hizumi laughs, remarking on how far Yuzumi is going for Shinba. Flustered, Yuzumi denies it, but Hizumi coolly comments that she has terrible taste in men. Yuzumi insists she just wants a convenient bag holder and that a lover would be a bother, adding she could say the same back to Hizumi. Hizumi agrees that it is indeed the case. Hizumi describes Shinba as a useless human with no education, assets, or talents, identifying herself as a strange woman with terrible taste for wanting him. She explains that is why desirable bachelors, fine wine and fancy cake hold no interest for her and apologizes for her terrible taste in men. Yuzumi understands that Hizumi will not take the bait. She shifts tactics, asking if Shinba is still devoted to her in his heart. Hizumi asks what she means by that. Yuzumi reveals she is his childhood friend and they have known each other since they were 8 years old. She explains that despite going overseas for 2 years after high school, they were together for 10 years. She reminisces about how they spent their youth together, with him always by her side. Yuzumi proudly declares that as his first love, he confessed his feelings to her. Hizumi listens intently. Yuzumi admits she turned him down in the end because she couldn't let such a useless human become her lover. She then states that Shinba is her pet dog and doesn't need a second owner. Hizumi questions whether an insecure man like Shinba could face a girl who had already rejected him and if he could so nimbly switch between girls. Yuzumi reveals that they shared a kiss. She clarifies that it was her and him. The revelation leaves Hizumi wide-eyed and shocked. Yuzumi adds with a smug smile that Shinba didn't reject her. Hizumi's shock is palpable as she processes the news. Hizumi concludes that Shinba's strange behavior was Yuzumi's fault. Yuzumi gleefully confirms it, asking if he was acting strangely and claiming his head is now filled with thoughts of her. She reminisces that it's been like that since they were young. She explains that his mind would fill up with her whenever she praised or got mad at him. He would always struggle fruitlessly whenever she took him out somewhere. She recalls that he would get happy when she gave him a treat, but would look for forgiveness in guilt when she got angry. She smiles fondly at the memory. She explains that he showed her so many expressions, and they were always faced towards her. She claims that after spending 10 years with him, she knows his faces well, unlike Hizumi. She asserts that their decade of memories is so strong that a single kiss was enough to make him go crazy. Yuzumi declares that Hizumi cannot win against their memories. Hizumi sits in stunned silence. Yuzumi notes that Hizumi can't even talk back. She says it's natural to despair when her opponent is her boyfriend's first love, childhood friend, and a famous actress. She tells Hizumi not to worry. She pats Hizumi on the head, promising to take responsibility. She tells Hizumi to get her chin up and that she will keep an eye out for a new boyfriend for her. Hizumi looks up with a confident smile and reveals that he gave her something. She calmly informs Yuzumi that Shinba gave her a ring. Yuzumi is left completely stunned. She asks what kind of ring it was. Hizumi describes it as a cheap thing with unbelievable aesthetics, an unthinkable present for a decent man. She confirms that he gave her that ring as a surprise during their date. She asks if that is the kind of ring Yuzumi was thinking of. Hizumi states that she has already seen all the expressions Yuzumi was talking about. She points out that it's mystifying how Yuzumi's decade of memories was matched by her, who hasn't known him for long. She adds that while Yuzumi was busy, she, an average girl, got to share intimate moments with him. With a final apology to Yuzumi-san, Hizumi declares that she ended up burying her decade of memories with just a few months of her own. Yuzumi is enraged and flustered. Hizumi stands to leave, saying she has no choice but to give up. She specifies that she is giving up on negotiating with Yuzumi. Yuzumi declares that from now on, she will spare no effort to snatch him away. She shouts that a ring is just an engagement and nothing is set in stone yet. She vows to let him walk by her side and continue the story of that day. Yuzumi yells that a greenhorn support actor like Hizumi should drop out for the lead actress. Hizumi calmly tells her to be quiet as they are in a private room and says she is leaving first. Hizumi gestures for silence. Yuzumi says she has some parting words. Hizumi advises Yuzumi that a first love should act like one and let the curtain fall, remaining as mere memories. Yuzumi is left seething in anger. Riding in a taxi, Hizumi reflects on the evening. She recalls Yuzumi's claim that Shinba didn't reject her. She understood that the kiss didn't come from Shinba and that Yuzumi hesitated. She realized he couldn't reject her because she trusted him. Looking at the toy ring on her finger, she resolves to kill his first love with their memories together. A woman begins her morning yoga routine, instructing a flustered Shinba to film it properly for her. When he questions her fidgeting, pointing out they used to exercise together as kids, she dismisses it, saying things were different back then. She tells him to capture good footage for her vlog, calling it a proper task for him. Overwhelmed and blushing, Shinba films her, wondering how things ended up this way. After explaining what a vlog is, the woman reveals her plan to create one for herself. Since her mother represents her agency, she can't expense non-acting related work. Therefore, she's relying on Shinba for all the camera work and editing. Shinba is completely shocked by the request. Shinba protests his lack of experience, but she reassures him it's a flexible part-time job. She explains that a phone is sufficient for filming and that editing guides are available online. She suggests that if he gains production skills, she might help him get a full-time job at her office. She leans in close, mentioning the pay would be good, further flustering him. The woman brings up the kiss, noting how strangely Shinba has been acting since. A shocked Shinba asks how she knew about that. She correctly guesses that he's been consumed by guilt and a desire to make up for it. He tries to point out that she initiated it. She dismisses his protest, stating that only his girlfriend's forgiveness can help him now. Leaning in, she asks if he wants Hizumi to forgive him. She explains that wives often forgive infidelity if their husband possesses a value greater than their sin. She suggests that instead of inefficiently atoning, he should compensate with a better worth. She offers him a chance to become a high-earning worker if he sees her job through. She frames it as a milestone that would surely earn Hizumi's forgiveness. Shinba's mind races with the desire to be forgiven. He imagines telling a delighted Hizumi that he has become a high-earning salaryman. In his fantasy, he apologizes for the kiss, and she immediately tells him it's okay. Hizumi is so overjoyed by his transformation that she proposes marriage on the spot. Motivated by this fantasy, Shinba enthusiastically agrees to learn how to record and edit for Hizumi's sake. Later, he films the woman's night routine. However, his heart pounds so hard that he can't keep the camera steady. As he films, Shinba wonders if she's just teasing him. She playfully asks if her camisole is making him excited. She repeatedly demands that he tell her she's cute. She leans in close, questioning if he's thinking about another girl behind his girlfriend's back. The teasing leaves him a flustered mess. Trembling, Shinba stammers that she has gotten much cuter than before. His unexpected compliment leaves the woman completely stunned and blushing furiously. Internally, the woman is ecstatic, trying to maintain her composure by reminding herself that she's a famous actress. She's overjoyed that the compliment wasn't just flattery from a fan or someone with ulterior motives. She thinks that after all this time, a simple compliment shouldn't make her this happy. The words mean the world to her because they come from her childhood friend and first love. While Shinba struggles with the blurry footage, the woman tries to compose herself. Her inner monologue reveals this was all part of her plan. She never expected him to make a proper vlog to begin with. The real goal is the process of recording and editing the footage together. She imagines them going on filming trips that are essentially dates and then editing the footage together at home. Through this process, she plans to become an everyday part of his life. This would ensure he spends more time with her than with Hizumi. She believes this will ultimately rekindle his feelings for his first love. Lying on her couch, she thinks about how this project will give form to her memories with Shinba. She eagerly anticipates seeing the final video. She fantasizes that as Shinba edits their footage, he'll be reliving their shared memories and falling for her all over again. Hizumi resolves to capture Shinba's heart right under her rival's nose. She works late at her laptop, telling her rival to enjoy herself while she can. She is preparing a present worthy of her opponent. She considers it a small token of appreciation for the woman clinging to her immature first love with Hizumi's useless human. For the vlog's finale, Yuzumi takes Shinba to an amusement park. Shinba feels embarrassed wearing his old school uniform, but Yuzumi reassures him. She is excited, insisting they go all out for the final shoot. Shinba worries about Yuzume, a famous actress, being recognized in the crowd, but she brushes off his concerns. She eagerly runs ahead into the park. She remarks how it feels like they've traveled back to their school days. Her sentiment makes Shinba visibly uncomfortable. Yuzume reminisces about how he used to carry her things for her. She fondly recalls it was just like the old days. She suggests it would be fun to relive their youth like this again. A conflicted Shinba can only sweat and quietly agree. They arrive at a flash talk event. The crowd cheers for the mascot on stage. The host calls for questions from the audience, and Yuzume tells Shinba to feel free to participate while she films. The host then selects the girl with the cute ears, and Yuzume steps up to the microphone, introducing herself as Miyabi. Miyabi asks the mascot, Flash, if he remembers his first love, startling Shinba. Flash enthusiastically confirms that his first love is his wife, Cherry. He proudly declares that he still loves her. Miyabi comments on how wonderful it is to marry one's first love. She calls it the happiest moment of life while looking pointedly at Shinba. Flash turns the question back on Miyabi, asking if she has a first love. She hesitantly confirms that she does. He then asks if she still loves that same person, making Shinba nervous. She grows flustered by the question. Flash then encourages her to yell out her love for everyone to hear. Overcome with stage fright, Miyabi freezes, internally cursing the mascot. She wonders why she's so scared when she should be used to crowds. She realizes the one she's truly scared of is Shinba. Tears well in her eyes as she looks at him. She drops the microphone with a clatter. Shinba suddenly barges forward, grabbing the microphone and declaring that this girl was his first love, but he was turned down. He shouts that he doesn't want to hear the name of the guy she loves now. As Flash apologizes for the situation, Miyabi begs Shinba to stop, on the verge of tears. The host tries to lighten the mood, telling Shinba not to worry. Later, as they walk away, Miyabi asks why he spoke up for her, explaining that she looked like she was about to cry. He apologizes, but she tells him he must have misread the situation, as she's a professional used to the stage. Shinba assumes the footage of the talk show is unusable, since his voice was recorded. However, Miyabi tells him not to delete it, and to send her that specific part. When he asks why, she blushes and quietly says it's because she liked that part of his. Shinba is confused by her request. She laughs and clarifies that his voice was amusing. Taking his hand, she thinks to herself that this is the moment she's always wanted. She resolves to create more routine work for him to make him more conscious of her. She is confident that he will soon lean her way. Yuzume thinks that when the time comes, she might give him a chance. Back at her apartment, Hizumi receives a notification from Shinba that the video is done, the preview text revealing his confession. Curious about what he's put together, she starts to watch. Her expression quickly turns to shock. A woman praises Shinba for sending the video. She thinks to herself how cruel it was to give an amateur such a difficult editing job. As Hizumi watches the vlog, she's amazed by the professional quality, noting the well-done text, effects, and music. She can't believe he really made it. Hizumi is shocked to find that Shinba's voice and image have been completely cut from the video. She briefly wonders if it was his own creative choice, but dismisses the idea. A flashback reveals the truth. The mysterious woman recalls how Shinba came to her in tears and became her loyal dog, following her instructions perfectly. She had reassured him that it was okay. Continuing the video, Hizumi wonders if she ever ordered the sweets shown on screen. She recognizes the location, but some of the scenes feel foreign to her. Her blood runs cold when she spots a ring on Yuzume's finger. She remembers the mysterious woman's taunt, "He gave me a ring." The realization hits her with horrifying clarity. The mysterious woman's plan is revealed. She sees Shinba as her faithful pet dog, one she would never abandon. Instead, she would teach him things: how to record, how to edit, and how to choose his owner. Holding a terrified Shinba, she thinks of the video as their first collaborative project, hoping.
Meanwhile, as Uzume boarded a taxi, she is left troubled, wondering why does her video with Shinba in the certain memory of then. She spotted a footage that she personally never saw before and wonders if this was a woman's hand. As the car stopped in Shinba's apartment, she rushes the flight of stairs, wanting to give Shinba-kun the questioning and to answer the question on what did Hizumi-san did to him. But to her surprised, Hizumi was coming out of Shinba-kun's apartment. Hizumi comments that it has been quite a while since they met. It seems she already foresaw this and made Shinba-kun to run to the store on an errand. As she slowly locks the door, she suggests they talk for a bit as there would be a lot to discuss. In the park, the two seems distance where Uzume-san is wary of her. She then confronts Hizumi on why she altered her video, even pointing out the obvious ring in the video, questioning why is she messing with her memories with Shinba-kun. Hearing this made Hizumi-san to finally reveal and talk about her memories with Shinba-kun. However, we transition quite a while back when Hizumi-san asks for a duplicate key, thinking it would come in handy if something came up. It also makes sense as they have different schedules where she could just wait for him whenever she leaves work early. With her sick twisted personality, she pushed the idea that those who live alone are often targeted in various ways, especially her boyfriend who is a useless human that can be easily deceived and distracted, not only that who get his things stolen only to realize afterwards. This vulnerable person should have someone watching over him as even a little visitor activity adds up to repel intruders. She also pointed out that if a thief of solicitor set their eyes on him, she would do his part to keep an eye on him, asking he should rest easy, while laughing menacingly calm. As Shinba stutters and suddenly became anxious, he wonders if she's also going to bring up the part where he ran away from her the other day. Hizumi then explains that everybody has things they find difficult to talk about, which also goes the same way for her. She asks he should talk about it whenever he is ready, and in exchange she only asks that he doesn't avoid her again. Shinba agrees, but was immediately noticed he was using the computer, which isn't a regular occurrence. He then revealed he was editing a video for his actress friend. It seems this actress friend makes a vlog on the side about everyday life as an actress, and was entrusted of making said video. However, he is gloomy and without motivation, finding it hard to do so as he has just been cruising with his luck. Shinba then shares his frustration, wondering why of all people he would be the one to be asked as he doesn't have any experience in editing before. At a loss, Hizumi-san then finally got the situation and dares to play along with Uzume-san. She then offers to teach him how to edit. She shares this kind of thing is her specialty as she works remotely quite often anyways. Working remotely, this is just a piece of cake, and even if he is on his job she could work on it, asking for the duplicate key to be given. Shinba is flustered, however hearing this was a great idea he immediately agreed in his mind. All he could ponder the opportunity of becoming a full-time employee and leave his useless title behind. Upon handing over the key to her, Hizumi-san questioned if he ever gave his keys to anyone else before. But upon knowing this was his first time ever doing so, she felt happiness knowing this. As she shortly teaches him more on how to edit clips and videos, she then had the idea of going out and recording some insert footage. Using the reason Uzume-san might be busy with her schedule, Shinba-kun suddenly got worried as this isn't their video. However, he was assured they were only adding filler clips. She explains the video is made for work, not for fun. As long as the quality is good, no one would notice. With her serious tone, she insists they should finish off the work by their hands back to the present. As Hizumi-san explains he helped out with Shinba-kun's editing, she also showed appreciation, having the perfect excuse to create an extra key for Shinba's home. The next morning they decided to have a date, where they were to film for the video. However, it seems Shinba-kun is once again late. Hizumi-san is already used to this, complimenting him for the major improvement being only 30 minutes late. Exhausted Shinba-kun is gloomy hearing this. However, Hizumi-san seems to be happy to record some footage. She describes that these moments feels like it will last forever, and as he makes more and more mistakes she wonders if she could live such a future she would be happy. It also seems she is confident in sharing the one whom she loves the most publicly. As the climax reached its end, Shinba also confessed his feelings towards her, finishing the override she plans all along. In the present, Uzume-san is in disbelief as even if she has memories belonging to her boyfriend, Hizumi-san would always have her fingerprints on them. Frustrated, she pushed Hizumi towards the ground and even injuring her cheeks. Uzume-san vents her frustration, questioning her if she felt like she won by defiling her vlog. Hizumi explains that she wouldn't say this as a declaration, however she has neither the right to stop someone from dying someone else's lover with her own color and has no right to tell Shinba-kun to sever ties with her, restricting his freedom. But with lucid eyes she claims that every time Uzumi-san tried to completely dye his memories with her own color over and over again completely with hers until she gave up on his useless boyfriend. Hearing this made Uzume-san to cry and vent her frustration that she felt lonely and claims she even wanted to reject him before. As the two was bickering from a distance, Shinba-kun noticed them and immediately approached. However, to his shock he heard a confessed from Uzume's feelings. Horrified, he called out towards them. We transition to the past where Uzume-chan was popular being approached by her classmates. However, she was shortly overwhelmed by the attention she got and is horrified. Left alone that day as the rain pours, she seems lost, but was approached by Shinba-kun when they were classmates. As he questions more about her, she slowly raised the question if it's alright to talk about her all of a sudden. With a smile he happily assures her feelings and was delighted to meet him. Every time they interacted, all she could do was compare her sad interactions with other people and people not talking about her, where Shinba-kun only was interested in her personally. However, in the pouring rain, Shinba-kun confessed his feelings. It seems she felt the same way. However, her parents made a huge impact in answering and made her to question what happens after this. She wonders if he would wait until she comes back and a long-distance relationship doesn't work for her. In the end she refused and apologized, leaving for America. As she arrived, all she could ponder it would be strange to fall in love with Shinba-kun, and as a trick for adolescence she pursued her career, believing the falling in love with a useless human is like dying as a woman. However, after that she still grieves the feeling and misses him dearly, crying while achieving her career. As the rain pours, she confessed her feelings for him and explains that she couldn't say yes to his confession due to not knowing when she would return. However, she had something in mind, that if Shinba stayed as a useless, unpopular human, he would stay unchanged even when she came back, and she would be the one to confess. But to her surprise, he already found somewhere he belonged. However, she concluded that if she confessed and got rejected, she wouldn't have any more excuses to come and meet him. That's why she thought she would make him confess to her. As she dashes towards Shinba-kun and pinned him down, she demands an answer on which kiss felt better between her and Hizumi-san. This frantically startled both of them, as she vents her frustration and made the situation uncomfortable. He ultimately answered every question, pointing towards Hizumi-san. As the questions stopped, she slowly cried. She sees him as someone who stood next to her when no one did. Shinba-kun expressed the appreciation, however he stood with the answer that Hizumi-san was the one who stayed right by his side. Even after all his downs, he loved her so much and firmly rejected Uzumi-san. However, he assured that both of them would still be childhood friends forever like back then. He smiled and asks that they should talk about hero movies more. Uzumi-san couldn't believe his words and sees him that had never grew up, giving her the relief he never changed.